But currently there are three big empires in the world. That's the United States Empire, the British Empire, and the Australian Empire. We know from history that...
Hello all, Lindsay from Freedom Media. So we're just bringing some live footage from down at Forest Place, Perth, Western Australia. If I can just get a comment from you, just to say that audio is okay. And yeah, we've just been trying to sort out a few things as normal with a stream, but we are now covering live footage down at Forest Place.
Separate ourselves from the empires.
In Perth, Western Australia.
The tyrants, the authoritarian, the totalitarians. We have enough common sense to make decisions for ourselves. Why should we elect somebody else to make decisions for us?
Thank you very much for your comments there. We appreciate that.
So those people of the Christian denomination, they are a large voting bloc, so I want to appeal to those people today and those other people from other religious denominations to take into consideration. Jeebus, he was a revolutionary, he was a rebel. He fought against the Roman Empire. The Galileans, they were, their lands and property was taken from them. The Jewish people, their lands and property was taken from them. They were exterminated. Our families in this continent have experienced that same scenario. Our families. It started off with a friendly gesture, a handshake, planting a flag in the sand, and then it progressed to random killings, mass killings, massacres, concentration camps, Rottnest Island, where people were locked away. And that has been privatised, the incarceration. We now have Serco, a business registered on the stock exchange in the UK. They are now our jailers and our keepers. So, the Egyptian Empire took over the land of the people, and the Roman Empire, they always collapsed. But without somebody exercising some rebellion, some sort of revolutionary, those empires will still exist today. So I'm appealing to all of you people that do vote and have been given the privilege of a vote to consider our history and how we've been treated for over 200 years. And if I was to cast a vote, which I don't, I would definitely say I can speak for myself. I reserve the freedom to speak for myself. I do not want to nominate somebody else to speak on my behalf. So if you can read between the lines here, it's a resounding no. We want our freedom.
Thank you, Greg. Well said. We've now got Rex Bellotti. He's of the Bibliman Tribal Nations, and he would like to talk to you about why he is voting no to The Voice.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Good to see such a great turnout for people that want to be informed of the reality of what's really going on. Now, just a little bit of background where I'm coming from. I can't put anything better than what Greg's eloquently just put it all. But I'm a part of the First Nation Deaths in Custody Board and other things that have been going on. One of those is my son was deliberately run over by the WA police as a 15-year-old. That was in 2009, and none of the police officers have ever been charged from that day to this. The irony is my boy's been in and out of jail with stuff that they've got on him. Now, the hypocrisy with all of this. And after all my research, now this is just my opinion and the research I've done, but the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution is registered on Norfolk Island. So at this point, and what I can see of the referendum, is about marrying the Constitution of Norfolk Island on mainland Australia, which then is going to supersede the sovereignty of the first people, tribes of this country, and it's going to take away all of our rights. I mean, I firmly believe that it'll stop us practicing our culture and our way of life. But this is going to permeate to everybody here in Australia, because I believe our sovereignty is protecting everybody else, their homes, their businesses. Once this gets taken away, people are going to lose the right to own anything in this country. What's been happening to us for 235 years is going to be done on a national effort and basis, and it's going to elude all of our rights, our God-given rights. I've been a Christian. So the verse that God showed me was Genesis 50:20. Even though they rendered evil against us, God meant it unto good to bring it to pass to save many people alive. Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. The vision I'm seeing from all our so-called elected leaders out there is tyranny, as Greg has put, totalitarianism. I don't care what culture and country you come from and originated. We need to be one, because this is going to affect us all. It is already affecting us all. And there has not been enough information shared for this yes vote. And the just recent days of our so-called leaders out there, have they read the document? A majority of them said no to me. I said, how can you vote for something if you have not been informed? I personally believe there's a concealment of material facts happening here. But everybody's swallowing it. They're being institutionalised to believe everything coming out of the government's mouth. It is time for change, but not that direction. Because there's going to be more people like my son and others that are going to be dying in custody. I'm dreading to think about, I'm seeing the changes happening in our health departments. Where is this going to lead for all people at the moment? Again, I firmly believe our sovereignty is protecting the whole of Australia at the moment. And if it takes us away, we're going to go down to a path, as Greg's alluded to, that is not going to bring us back to normality ever again. And to call things divisive, people forget that there's been a part historically in the Constitution. I'm not sure whether it's still there these days, but the White Australia policy, how divisive is that? People sit up and sing the Advanced Australia Fair. It's about the skin colour. It's already divisive. We need to come away from that mentality, because if we look at all of this, whether it's racism, bad politics, everything that we're facing here on the ground today, I've always said this comes from bad leadership. Bad attitude is a direct reflection of bad leadership. We need people in place that are representing the community, representing our country, because there's too many organisations here that are privatised and registered over in America under the Corporation Commission. They're not government agencies. So we need to stand firm, because my boy's not out of the woods by a long shot. He's 30 now. Most men would struggle with the injuries he's received being run over by a police four-wheel drive. And the deaths in custody that I'm seeing. And not only that, I don't like seeing anybody mistreated and abused. Again, I don't care who you are. If I can help, I will. And we need to permeate that to everybody. There's not enough being done. And our agencies here that are supposed to be looking after us, I believe they're going to be redundant the moment this voice to Parliament and the yes goes through. So the more they get on board and vote, registering to vote, the one by default. So we need to be out there. Black, white, purple, brittle, yellow. We need to be out there. We need to say no, because I'm not here to make money for myself. It's not about that. It's about the freedoms for my children, my grandchildren, and further generations. We should have the right to go fishing, all of us, to go anywhere in this country. No one should be paying for it. But I can see there's a lot of stuff happening. Yep. There's a lot of stuff happening that nobody's saying anything about. We need to come together. Unity, unification in our country on the basis that Everything is illegal, in my opinion, and we need to stand, and we need to stand now in unity. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. And just so you know, we've got some flyers here for the vote no with Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine, is it? On the front, so you can help yourself to these. I think we've got more of these as well. So our next speaker is Mebingari Cindy Roberts, is a Widjabul woman of the Budjalung Nation and is here to advise you why you should vote no to the voice.
Can I take it off? I wonder a lot around them. Got my boogaby. How you all going, Western Australia? Pardon? Stay away from it? It's off limits. Try to get this. Before I begin, if a lot of people know me, I like to open up and welcome the Creator Spirit and all our ancestors to be here with us today. Do you mind? Garamanutangale Najangale, Najanga Najangaris, Nae Mebangari, Nae Baris. I just thank you, and we just call upon you to be present with us today, now and forever. We ask all our ancestors to be with us. United we stand, divided we fall. So I call upon all the great spirits of creation and all our ancestors to be with us today. And I thank you, Creator Spirit, for bringing us together. One people, one love, one family. And I thank you. And I thank you for the people, the custodians of this land, that you're always with them and that we always respect and acknowledge them. I thank you. Sagarama Bugabe. Thank you, everyone. Bless you all. Well, what can I say about government? Make some noise for government. Yeah, it's like that, eh? Well, there's a lot going on in this country. And we have been divided for too long as a people. And it's time for change. You know, I'm a Widjabul woman. I come from a tribe of the Budjalung Nation, and in that tribe there's 15 tribes. And not one of our tribes have been consulted in regards to this voice to Parliament. My tribal elders have not been consulted in regards to this voice to Parliament. 97% of Australians, non-originals, will be voting. We are only 3%, so whose voice is it? We are outnumbered regardless. So when it comes to this government, it's the people that versus the wealthy and the rich. We are not their slaves. We do not belong to no man. We belong to the Creator. We do not belong to no man. And who gave anybody the consent to rule and reign over the people? This government has been lying from day dot, this is not our voice. And you got all these people out here, all these politicians, all making money. All corporate buddies, eating at the same table, drinking at the same table, sleeping in the same bed. None of them can be trusted regardless, because they all protect their own interests and their own pockets. My people have had enough. As the Australian people had enough. They have been robbing the Australian people for far too long. They are nothing but a bunch of crooks and thieves. They steal your money that you work hard for. They don't pay rent. They don't pay tolls. They don't pay bills, yet you pay rent to them. And they don't even own the land. Wow. Says a lot about government. So what I came to tell you is why. So in order for them to take full ownership of the land, they have to supersede our sovereignty. And if anyone doesn't know what, let me just break it down to you when we talk about sovereignty. Can I just get, does anyone understand it? If you don't understand, can you just put your hand up why we talk about sovereignty? Do you understand it? If you don't, just put your hand, just raise your hand. Please, so I can just see hands if you don't understand what it's about. I'm just going to break it down. When colonial settlement first came, when the colony came, they were given specific orders. I got a copy of these orders, by the way. I got a copy of a lot of things. You would all have a ball with. So when orders were given, they had specific orders that when they came and they had made contact with the native people of the land, these orders, they were travelling incognito. And these orders were specific orders by the Royal Society. You had not Arthur Phillips yet. You only had James Cook and you had Joseph Banks. Arthur Phillips came later. Anyways, they were given specific orders, and them orders were that they were not to build a colony if no consent was ever given, and they were not to live among the native if no consent was ever given. When they entered the lands of the Weagle, the Bidjigal people, they went to approach them, but the native people there, the Weagle people, the tribal people today, the tribal descendants today, told them to leave. Within 15 minutes of first contact, muskets were fired. Our people were shot out. No consent was ever given, and the lands were never ceded. So if you didn't know history, that's what it's about. And from that history, from that time on, ever since they built the colonial establishment in this country, no consent was ever given. And no consent was ever given today. And the Australian people, you never gave the Australian corporate government consent back in '73 under the Gulf Whitlam government when they established their corporation to rule and reign over you, did you? Did you give them consent? Wow, says a lot about them, eh? So here we are, the Australian corporate government, running this country, no consent from the people. Because the Australian people, right, were all meant to be under the Commonwealth. Well, that ship set sail a long time ago, brothers and sisters. This is why they need us all in the Constitution. They have a secret agenda. I'm here to tell it. Because they need to be telling the Australian people the truth about one. They're going to kill two birds with one stone. So the first stone is take the tribal people from the land, chuck them in their constitution, and take ownership for their New World Order agenda. They need ownership first. See, our national sovereignty actually protects the Australian people. We need to be uniting, not dividing. See, they've been doing this for far too long. See, before your ancestors were brought across here on change, can you imagine how long the coloniser has been doing this to not only our ancestors, but to yours? Because you've only been here, what, 235 plus years, right? But they have been doing it since time before that era came. Yep. So I'm just letting you know, but before that, right, they've been doing it hundreds and thousands of years before they even brought your ancestors to these shores. And it's sad because these are the colonisers that we're up against today. My people, the same colonisers that done it to your ancestors are the same colonisers that our government serve today. This is what we're up against. So what they're going to do is not only will, once they get my people into the Constitution, which we do not belong to, it does not apply to us. We are living men and women of the land. We come from tribes. We come from nations and tribes. So we don't belong in a Constitution. So why would you take the living and put us into something dead? It doesn't make sense. We are living men and women. We all belong to the land. Don't let this government take away your freedom. So the second bird that they're going to kill, that's the first one. Chuck us in their constitution, take ownership of the land, for them to become a republic, and for New World Order, for the United Nations to move in. Right? And World Economic Forum waiting at the doorstep knocking, let us in. Hell no. Am I allowed to swear? Fuck off. Fuck off. And let me say another thing. So this is what they're going to do with the Australian people. They need to take their property, right? Their cargo. Their cargo, well, once upon a time, right? The cargo is the Australian people. You were once under the British colony. You were once British subjects under the Commonwealth, Australian citizens. So this is why they want you to vote. They're not telling you. Because they need to get the cargo from the Commonwealth, put you all in the Constitution to become their subjects under a corporate global constitution that wants to rule this country, and are we going to tolerate it? Well, this is what they're going to fucking do. They are lying to the people. Since when do we ever trust government? The Australian people, my people, this is the time that God's army needs to rise. Enough is enough in this country. My brothers and my sisters, you are my family. No more. I hate government and hope you do too. We'll be good buddies, I'm telling you. But never trust government. So when we go to these polling booths, I don't agree with having even walking in there voting either, but you know what? Don't let the yes fucking win. I don't care what anyone says, because they cannot be held accountable if we don't fucking vote. We need to hold them accountable. So take a photo of your vote. I reckon we all wear red, anything red. Make sure you take a pen. Take a photo of your vote. Because what? If they think they're going to fucking rig it, we're going to hold them accountable. We the people! Enough is enough. I got to get off now, you mob, so get on my booger me. I never even told you about the treaties. Another time.
What do I say? I love a bit of passion. Woman after my own heart, Cindy. Thank you, Evan Gary, Cindy Roberts.
Love you, WA.
Love you back. So next I want to introduce a beautiful lady that I know well. Her name's Pip Claydon. and she runs the Elevation Evolution Support Group every Friday, and she would like to talk about unity. Thanks. Welcome, Pip.
Hey, how you going out there? It's great to see so many people come out today. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. I'll probably lose my voice if I try anything like that. My name's Pip. I'm a local. I live down Freo Way. I've been running a support group called Elevation Evolution for the last 2 years, every Friday. So it's on a whole lot of the socials. If you want to jump on and come along, it's a day. We just make the space. You can come along and hang out and talk to anyone you like about whatever you want. But I'm going to talk to you today about unity, which is also what Cindy was talking about in her amazing oration there. But I'm going to read mine so that I keep it together. I'll just put the paper up the right way. And put my glasses on. Always helpful. So, unity is defined as the state of different areas or groups being joined together to form a single country or organisation. When there is unity, people are in agreement and act together for a particular purpose. The people of Australia are not in unity in regard to the Voice referendum. Therefore, this referendum cannot pass, as there is no unity among the people for its cause. There is only division, and humanity is not based on division. Who are we to think that we, who are not the native Indigenous, should have the right to make a choice over their sovereignty, as if we have some level of ownership over them? The voice that needs to be heard is their voice, not ours. And it should be their choice and not ours. And it is patronising to think that we should be given the power to do so. Their power is in being the sovereign First Nations people of the land. So they hold the power against those who would take it from them. In the last few years, the governments of the world have divided us. People are afraid of people. Religions are afraid of religions. And governments are afraid of governments. And their answer is to oppress, to manipulate, and to control in order to achieve the outcome that has been dictated to them by the unelected bodies of the globalists. Make no mistake, the Voice agenda is part of that dictate for the acquisition of the lands of Australia. We are here today in unity to support our Indigenous brothers and sisters to maintain their sovereignty and to not be lied to and manipulated again and again by a government behaving as authoritarians and without integrity or transparency. First Nations people have been told to trust the government for the last 230 years. When will the government prove to be trustworthy? Does the government care about the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander people? Well, history shows us that they don't. Hang on, next page. In 1990, ATSIC was set up to give a voice to Indigenous Torres Strait Islanders. It was abolished in 2004, citing that the experiment in separate representation for Indigenous people had been a failure. Well, this current experiment is set to be enshrined into our Constitution with no recourse to remove it. Albanese wants us all to say yes before the detail is decided. That's a dangerous shoot first and ask questions later. That's the scenario. Why would we think we are being told the truth? And why would we be expected to think this would be successful after previous attempts have failed? If the voice is successful, oh gosh, First Nations people will cede their sovereignty and their voice will be reduced to a token Aboriginal Parliament speaking on a collective behalf, which will have no ability to be changed. But the power of the people is rising in consciousness. Rising in consciousness to ignite change. We all want change, but not the change that subjugates us, and not change based in treachery. We are tired of being manipulated and lied to by a highly funded propaganda machine. The fight has arrived on our doorstep. We need to use it to inspire the collective awakening. It's time to stand together in unity, peace, love and brotherhood. Together in unity, we will make a difference. Vote no for the voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Pip. Our next speaker, Tony Shaw, is the owner and managing director of Indigenous Services Australia, based in Perth. Western Australia Indigenous Services Australia is a 100% Aboriginal-owned company that provides cultural awareness training, Indigenous employment training, as well as consulting and advisory services to major corporate entities across Australia. Their vision is to create the awareness necessary to enable Aboriginal people to walk beside others. Sounds like Tony's company empowers Indigenous people rather than victimises them. Please welcome Tony Shaw.
Thank you for that. And my mates here, 4 broken ankles will attest to you limping a bit. So I do appreciate the time that you've taken and that you've been very patient. I'd like to pay my respects to the Nyungar people, and in particular the Wadja family clan of the Nyungar people. I'm a Wangai, I'm a Ngandara from the desert, so I'm off country. So whenever I speak, and I've spoken to about 150,000 people worldwide, I pay respects to the language group on which I'm presenting. I'm born and bred in Kalgoorlie. I was born on a reserve in Laverton actually. It's on the edge of the Great Victoria Desert. Someone said to me recently, Tony, do you know what the hardest thing in the world is to do? And I was stumped. And he said, well, I'll tell you, it's childbirth. And they're right, ladies. I don't think us as blokes understand the enormity of childbirth. But my mother had 8 of us in the desert because we were born at a time when it was against the law for her to be at hospital and to have me with nurses and doctors and midwives and all of that kind of thing. So I have a very strong respect for my traditional mother. She lived a wretched life because she had all of us taken from her. I ended up having 16 institutions before I was 14 in this supposed great country as a reflection of my colour. But when my mother died, we buried her with dignity in Leonora. And I don't know whether anybody here has actually done public speaking before, but let me tell you, one of the toughest groups I've ever presented to was the Maritime Unions of Australia, the MUA. There are militant groupings of people, very strong, very staunch, very passionate. They have the ability to close down a country if they so choose. But at the end of one presentation, a very big guy came up to me and he said, "Tony, can I talk to you?" And strangely enough, I'm agoraphobic, don't like crowds or people. And he said, "Look, I just want to let you know that I was a policeman in Leonora from where you're from in the 1980s, and I remember your mother." So I went, "Oh, that's interesting. Tread warily. I know you guys bashed her, in one incident raped her, and treated her like an absolute dog." And he said, and he had tears in his eyes, he said, "Look, I want to let you know that if we would have known her story at the time that I was there, we would have treated her differently. We just all thought that she was mad." So she used to live on the streets. My younger brother Eugene is homeless. He lives at the train station here, has done for 15 years. And anyway, he said, "Look, if we had all known her story, we would have treated her differently. We all just thought she was mad." So I said two things back to him. One is that, thank you for being honest. And secondly, I just want to let you know it's all okay. Could have seen a big burden gone off his shoulders, because what I saw right there and then was reconciliation for what it truly is. Now, reconciliation is when an individual sees an opportunity to rectify behaviours in the past that they're not proud of. Let me tell you, we're not going through reconciliation in this great country. Everything that I've learned suggests conciliation. And that's when people start to listen to each other's stories in order to generate a value judgment. Be it positive or negative is not the issue. It's that we've listened to each other's stories. Now, last time I looked, now I might be wrong, but there's some 3,700 Aboriginal organisations, some 300 Aboriginal medical services. There's upwards of 12 politicians out there. There's 1,400 workers in an Aboriginal affairs department, spending billions each year. At the end of the 2017 fiscal year, I think some $33 billion was spent on my people who are still suffering, who represent 3% of the population, that sees people homeless here, and nothing is changing. All I know is that the last referendum we had pertaining to our people was in 1967, May of 1967. What was that for? To count us on the census as natives. Because if you become citizens, you're subject to Commonwealth law and all the privileges that come with that. The ability to travel, marry, attend hospitals, all of those things that everybody else took for granted. And it was a great referendum. 99% of the population, yes. Gough Whitlam jumps into a plane, flies to the Northern Territory, a place called Wave Hill, seeks out Vincent Lanyari. Most of us here know Vincent. If we listen to Paul Kelly's song From Little Things, Big Things Grow. And this old man was 80 at the time, and he'd been chasing up recognition for his land for 40 years. Gough Whitlam pours the sand in his hand and says, "You've got your station back. Australia can't move forward as a nation of people until Aboriginal people take their rightful positions." But what he forgot to say was this. Here we are, setting out on a journey that finishes in 5 generations' time. That's how long it's going to take to undo the wrongs of the past. Now, we're a generation and a half into that. And I see a quantum shift in terms of where we are at today based on where we were 30 years ago. We're working at things together. We're chipping at that wall and looking for a better day, each and every one of us in this square right here, right now. Now what's happening? Oh, let's all send the 18-year-olds on the electoral roll, who I think don't even know anything about themselves, let alone this big contentious issue of racial tension, socio-economic difference and so forth, to vote on this in order for us to move forward. I say, are you kidding me? Let me tell you something before I go. If you vote no, you're not racist. If you vote no, you're not racist. Agreed? If you vote no, that suggests to me that you're a thinker. Right? You've done your research. I was sitting in this coffee shop over there thinking, should I do a runner and go home? It'll be 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, thank you, friend. The others went about 10 minutes. Yelling and screaming and whatever. But I was having a coffee over there and there was a lady sitting next to me, Marjorie. I said, hello, how are you? She says, I'm good. She says, have you come here for the speeches or the rally? I said, yeah. And she says, so have I. And I said, wow, how old are you? She says, I'm 80. And I said, where are you from? She goes, Kalgoorlie. And I said, so am I. So we had a really good yarn. And she goes, do you know why I'm going there today? And I said, why is that, Marjorie? She said, I've done my research. I'm a thinker. So I don't know whether Marjorie's here or not, but if she is, you made my day. We had a really good half-hour talk. Thank you very much for listening to me. You've all got passion. That's the third element of happiness. And I appreciate the time that you've taken. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Right, we've now got Julius Latero singing a song, a version of the Rich Men North of Richmond. Thanks, Julius.
The Perth Freedom Rally, the Perth Freedom Movement.
How's it going, everyone? My name's Julius, how you doing? So it's a version of Richmond, north of Richmond, which is a reference to the rich men in Washington. Oh, my being, set my soul, working all day, overtime hours, what she'd pay, so I can see it out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. And it's a damn shame. What the world's getting to, these rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all wanna have total control. I know what you think, I know what you do, I don't think you know, but I know that you do. So dollar ain't shit, it's next to nowhere in Richmond, north of Richmond. Wish these politicians would look out for minors. They're not just minors on an island somewhere. Oh, we got our folks in the street with nothing to eat, no peace, milk and welfare. God, if you're 5 foot-pounds and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your back to foot rounds. Young men are putting themselves deep in the ground. All this damn country does is keep on kicking us down. Lord, it's a damn shame. But the world's gotten to people like me, people like you. If I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is, oh it is, living in the new world. North of Richmond, Lord knows they all wanna have total control. I know what you do, know what you do. Don't think I know, but I know that you do. To toleration, it's tax to nowhere. Richmond, north of Richmond. We're not selling our souls, we're not hiding away. We're standing up here in WA. Thanks everyone. Stay strong. Rise up.
Okay, just going to jump in there while the next speaker comes out, just to say, when it comes to music, it's great to see it. In terms of streaming, I'm always concerned that Facebook will take the stream down. They'll just look for things to do. But we're moving on to the next person. And that is Graham Hood.
But there can't be many of you. Hoodie is an ex-Qantas pilot who refused the jibby-jab and has been proactive in defending our human rights. Please check him out on Club Grubbery. It's informative and very entertaining. Thank you, Hoodie.
How are you? The home of the Light newspaper, Western Australia. How good is that? Putting the truth out there to replace the tabloid media that have let this country down, along with the mainstream of every other media source in the country. I'm here today on my holy Sabbath day because I'm a Sabbath-keeping Christian. And so what that means is that today is my church day. So thank you for inviting me to your church. Before I speak anywhere, I always pray. Whether you believe or not, this message is for you. Dear Father God, we thank you for the light of truth in John 8:32. We thank you that we can bathe in the light of truth, and we thank you that in a nation and a world that is failing by government decree, that there is a government in heaven that always keeps its promises. Father God, be with us here today, we pray in Jesus' name. I hope everyone says amen. 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 Why are we here? Well, most of us, in fact all of us, are everyday Australians. Whether you've been vaccinated, whether you're black, white or brindle, it doesn't matter. We are Australian and we are one. And we are now under the control of a government and a corporate entity that is depriving us of our freedom. They have poked the tiger too hard. Many of us rolled along, paid our taxes, did what was asked of us, but I really smelled a rat when I said no to the vaccine about 2 days before I was going to get it. And ever since then, everything I've seen proves to me that we are living in a fascist state. The definition of fascism in the Oxford Dictionary is when government and corporations combine together for the common good. When you've got a government and a bunch of corporate leaders telling you to vote yes, that should be an automatic indication to vote no. And what on earth are we doing trying to enshrine racism into a Commonwealth of Australia constitution that the politicians who are trying to do that don't look at anyway? We've already got a voice. The Indigenous people have already got a voice. But where was our constitution when we were being locked out of our states? Where was our constitution when medical conscription was forcing people to give up everything they own? Where was our constitution when the homeless people that are growing so rapidly in this country is being pushed on them because of mandates? Where is our constitution when they can bring down emergency powers and circumvent the highest law in the land? Where is our Commonwealth of Australia constitution? And why do you want to amend a document that you don't care about anyway? They want to enshrine racism into our constitution. If you want to enshrine anything else into our constitution, we desperately need a Bill of Rights. We desperately need a Bill of Rights. I would rather we had a referendum on whether we would want our government to sign up to the International Health Regulation to give Tedros the power to be our governor in the next pandemic. Would you want that to happen? Has anyone asked you if you want that to happen? You're very good at saying no. Do you trust the government? Do you trust the corporations? Do you trust education? Do you trust health? Do you trust legacy mainstream media? How are you going to vote in 4 weeks' time? How are you going to vote? I've been, like many of you, labelled as a racist. I ain't no racist. I am sick to death of people like Morrison and Albanese strutting our human rights on the world stage like we're a banner that's to be held up in the light. As a nation, we need to measure ourselves by our most disenfranchised. At the moment, every year out of Canberra rolls a money train with a big hole in the bottom of it. $30 to $40 billion is loaded on that train and aimed at the Aboriginal remote communities. By the time the train gets to them, there's not a teaspoon of money left in it. We don't need a voice to sort that out. We need accountability in government to sort that out. I said to Uncle Bruce Shillingsworth on a Club Grubbery interview the other night, the way I see it is, you're my brother. And he said, the way I see it is, you're my brother. And I said to him, the way I see it is, in Australia, we are made up of people who believe in this. If you stand, I stand. If you fall, I fall. I stand with our Indigenous people, but I want them to get a fair deal. I don't want to see the fat cats in the black corporations raking in the money and it not getting to where it needs to go, because corruption infiltrates everybody, no matter what the colour of their skin, if they don't have integrity. Without integrity, we're nothing. Now, I may be really dumb. In fact, a lot of people think I am. What you think of me is none of my business. I couldn't care less. But this much I'm really struggling with. Anyone who's thinking that not voting is a good idea, I see as giving a yes vote to the campaign. For goodness sake, we still have some form of democracy, and whether you believe in the electoral system or not, to deny a vote is to give away any opportunity to make change, because we've got to work in the system that we have at the moment. That's the way I see it. But the big thing that will get us across the line in this nation is a power that's going to divide us, not unite us. We have been divided by experts, from without and from within. We are being divided into a country that is focused on all the wrong things when all that really matters is that we pull together. We must be united. We must be united. I have learned a lot. I've learned that the country is made up of black fellas, white fellas, old fellas and young fellas. And in the last few weeks I've been talking to a lot of my Indigenous old fellas with grey hair. And the old fellas all sitting around agree on one thing. We are all Australian. If we could have leadership in our nation like Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine, we would have real leadership towards restoring the once great country we once were. People say, hang the politicians. Sometimes that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because some of them are actually proving themselves to be worthwhile. I would love to see a country led by Jacinta Price or Alex Antic, for example, people who are prepared to stand up. So I urge us all to work with what we've got. And before I close, I want to say this. Grace and evil cannot live in the same town, and evil is always the first to leave. And I want to illustrate that with a very quick story. My wife, who is part Noongar, was adopted as an Aboriginal baby into a loving Christian family. And as a future was laid out in front of her of a life with promise, living on a farm, being well educated by a beautiful family, something was going on behind the scenes that nobody knew about. From the age of 3, she was being groomed by a predator within the church that her family attended. That predator groomed her till the age of 9 when he started raping her, and he did that every weekend for 6 years. She kept it quiet because she thought if she spoke up she would cause too much trouble, that she'd be sent back to the orphanage from where she came. And when she spoke up in her 40s and laid charges, something really great happened. She felt some freedom happening for the first time. And even though he was acquitted because he was too old and the DPP had no money, and there were 64 charges against him that would have taken him to jail, she found it in her heart years later to forgive the man. And what she did was she got in on an aeroplane with me, and we flew across from the east coast over here to the west, and we found the man in one of the regional centres in a nursing home. And we went up to him, and he was sitting on a park bench out the front of the nursing home like he had a spotlight on him. And we walked up, and we couldn't believe we had our good fortune that we saw him. And she sat next to him. And I said, "Are you so-and-so?" And he said, "Yes, I am." I said, you know who this is?" And he said, "No." I said, "This is Shelley." And he trembled, and he shook a hand, and he cried a little. He puddled up. And he said, "It's really good to see you, Shelley." And she said, "It's really good to see you." And that floored me. And then she said to him, "I've come all the way from the East Coast to tell you that I forgive you for what you did." And his reply as he puddled up was, "Oh, that's good. I want you to know I forgive you too, because you were just as responsible as I was." And as I grabbed his shoulder and went to punch him in the face, she put her hand in front of mine and she said, "No, not now." And then she looked up at the sky and she said, "God, give me strength." And she looked him straight back in the eye and said, "Despite everything you just said, I still forgive you." And then she leaned over and kissed him on the forehead and got up and walked away. I've never seen a more courageous act in my life. But something happened. It was like I saw a dark force leave that man as he collapsed into a wreck. He collapsed into a moral wreck. And the dark force that left him was saying things like, "Man, you're on your own with this, I can't deal with this." And when I looked at him, I realised that he'd lost his power over her and she got it back. And I came up with a saying that grace and evil can't live in the same town, and evil's always the first to leave. If we don't start forgiving each other in this country, we're not worth living here. If we don't start forgiving ourselves for the crimes of the past, we're never going to go forward. The only way we're going to get freedom back is to forgive and live in grace, but still hold the people to account who need to be held to account. And they will be. They will be. If not in this court, in the one above. So take great heart in what you're doing. I want you to know this before you go. There's not one person on the planet who's more important than any one of you, whether you vote yes or no, whether you've been vaccinated or not. There's not one person on the planet who isn't broken. But you're all precious and you're all beautiful. And I don't do this for money and I don't do this for ego. I do this because I love my country, and that means I love you even though I may not like you. So let's get over it, let's get on with it, and let's get our country back. God bless Australia and God bless you.
Thank you, our beloved hoodie. Thank you. Next we've got a song from Antonio, and then after that we're going to be marching, and we will be following our WA Freedom Movement leaders, and we will be peacefully marching. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominique. Thanks, Hoodie. Thank you, Western Australia. We the people. Yes, we the people. We are here. We are everywhere. That's why this song goes out to you guys.
Okay, we're just going to see what the song is again. You know, it's great to put the songs out and be here to be able to stream.
All right, come on.
The concern is that Facebook pulled down the stream.
Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah, yeah! You wanna be in my game? Stand up with me. We'll start a revolution and make the streets free. We'll never give it this. We'll never mind war. Don't feel the heart middle where they hear the mighty roar. Showdown. We're standing down. We're gonna fight to the very last man. Can't be defeated. Don't know the world. Showdown. We'll free the world. We can't be beaten. We can't be beaten. There comes a time where every man must fight. Where he believes in justice and right. It'll take so much until you take no more. The heroes coming when they hear a mighty roar. Showdown, we'll stand. We're gonna stand to the very last man. Can't be defeated, don't know the word. Showdown, we'll free the world. Be beaten, come on. We can't be beaten. We can't be beaten. Now listen, everybody out there. You gotta realize it's you're the real power out there. We can rule the streets. It's just up to you and me. Yeah. Showdown! We'll free the world! We can't be beaten! What I say! We can't be beaten! When I hear ya! Right from the back now! Beaten now! Alright! Southwest Australia! We can't be beaten! We can't be beaten! We can't be beaten! Western Australia! We can't be beaten! They'll hear our mighty roar! I'll hand you back to Dominique. Enjoy the march!
Thanks, Antonio. I love your energy. And don't forget your hat. Right, we're marching now, peacefully, and we're following the guys in the blue vests. So this is my favourite part. So I'm going to be up at the top because I've got to get back first. All right, let's go.
So I'll just maybe just sign it off a little bit.
Did I say blue vest? I meant orange. sorry. And there's guys with buckets, so I hate asking for money, but please, just to cover our costs, the WA Freedom Movement costs, not mine. But yeah, please, whatever you can give would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, so there we go. So we brought you some of the footage there. We did see some of the comments there. The last performer was absolutely killing the song. But you know, we're not trying to be funny about streams. I can't begin to tell you the amount of comments or notifications that I've had from Facebook come through recently, and they've gone back over the last 2 years. Any music that's been playing in the background, I have to do appeal after appeal, even if it's a performance like this, for copyright. Rather than taking down the one part of that particular part of the stream, Facebook want to pull down the whole stream. So historically, that would be an absolute tragedy, because these streams do provide a recollection and at some point hopefully may create accountability. So that is the fear. It's not a question of being paranoid. It's very real. It's been happening a lot in the last 6 weeks, which there could be a number of reasons for that. I just really can't understand, you know, all on the back of the mis and disinformation bill. You can see why that they want to do that, because streams like this are getting out to people. I'm sure many people would have liked to have been here today, but can't. We're not really set up to cover the rally, which we normally do. So I'm just gonna have a chat to the guys on the crew and just decide whether we might shut the stream down or maybe get some comments in the background. I'll just walk around so you can just see as they're being prepared there, because we did have something else on today. It was sort of a last-minute scramble, and unfortunately, yeah, we weren't quite able to get everything right. I'm just going to, on the front view, just give Alexandra a hand to get the camera to a level that she's happy with. And yeah, so we'll just give it a little bit of a thought as to what I'm going to do here, because we just had to pop in, as I said, not really set up to do this, more sort of a static location. There are a couple of interesting, I will say just before perhaps I will close off, a couple of interesting things there. You did hear Greg, the Indigenous gentleman that actually, we just got here a couple of minutes into his speech, and talk about saying that, you know, he's advocating, well, for the no vote, but don't vote. That's what he's saying in terms of the sovereign person. You, of course, heard Graham Hood just then saying that, you know, that those, and, you know, look, I get it. I get the journey in terms of the 1973 Constitution, which you've also just heard just then, and probably the worst thing that, that I see is that the foot's really well and truly been on the pedal in terms of the momentum for those that are really understanding that the government's not quite telling them the truth. We've got Dave that's going to play some music in the background. I might just move away from the speaker. But the worst...
Okay, for all you people who are not going on the march, sticking around here.
I might just flick around this way so we're out of the speaker and come back behind. Yeah, and one thing that I do want to pick up that Graham Hood said there, for those that are considering not voting, that very much will hand a number back over to the Yes campaign. And I've done a number of posts in relation to this. I'm not saying vote yes or no, but if you want to, as again Graham Hood said, you need to understand the way the game's being played at the moment. Yeah, I think on that note, just based on the music, that I am going to just shut the stream down, and when they return, we probably may just start back up. So again, I really will hate the whole stream to come down because of copyright. So for now, Lindsay from Freedom Media just signing off from Forest Place in Perth, Western Australia.